Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man Network Transmission. In the last part we tried to access the internet, got flung over to Proto-Man, fought Proto-Man, then went after the vacant World 3 lot where there was a Shadowman waiting for us. And now it's time for us to go fight him again in the Net Battle Simulator, so let's actually talk about what his attacks are since we didn't really give him a chance to do anything last time. We saw the main attack he really likes to use last time, where he spawns 2 shadow clones in the center of the field and all 3 of them fall down. One of them has a sword and that's the real one. They're just trying to fake you out and do an attack on you. If you hit him during that, he often follows it up with that attack again until he gets it off normally. He can throw some shuriken at you directly as well. Sometimes he throws them and they have a little bit of an arc to their descent as well. Otherwise, he has an attack where he just kind of jumps forward to try and hit you with a katana slash. That one's probably the hardest to dodge, if only because the timing's a little weird. Also, whenever he does the teleport down with the shadow clones, he actually throws shuriken outwards at angles when he leaps out from that attack. But those aren't really going to hit you unless you're really close to him anyway. As per usual, if you beat him efficiently enough, you get his Navi chip, which is one I'm not the biggest fan of, honestly. It sort of works like Needleman, where he spawns where you are and then jumps and then throws several shuriken down at angles towards the ground. And I think they are larger hitboxes than, say, Needleman's needles. But I prefer Needleman on the whole because they do the same on the tin damage anyway. On top of that, Needleman has the elemental bonus towards elect enemies, and given how many elect chips there are, that means there's also a lot of elect enemies, so Needleman's just overall preferable to me. So our next destination is the legendary World 3 net, which, as they mentioned, is located in the outer net, which DeX's PC is the closest jack-in point for that, so we're just going to use that. You want to grab some unlocks before heading over there, though. In particular, you want to grab up to 4, depending on how many you already have. The reason for this, there are 3 in the level itself, but there's also one in the outer net we haven't been able to grab yet because it's locked behind the security cube that the legendary World 3 area itself is locked behind. But while we're over here, we also might as well go over to Numberman and spend all the Zenny we got because there are several items he has that we haven't been able to grab yet. The HP memories and mem-ups are one thing, but also we can now grab the Rock Cube battle chip, which spawns in a rock cube that you can then punch to do damage to enemies or to use as an obstacle in the case you want to throw like a satellite chip at it. It's more useful in the RPGs than it is here, honestly. So the area beyond the security cube is a whole lot of ladders with returning ladder press enemies from Classic. And you can destroy them. I think they can give you some of the stone body chip line, but I so seldom get battle chips from them that it's not really worth noting. The big thing as well, this is where using ladder controls can get a little tight. Honestly, I just recommend, if you have double jump, use it to skip straight to the exit by jumping to that ladder directly to my right that ladder press is on, and ignore the actual platforming. With the only exception to that being, maybe use an extra double jump as well once you're actually at the teleporter, because the locked mystery data here in the outer net is directly above it. We've seen this, I think, as early as our first visit to the outer net, because it's not too far from where that particular backup we got was. But it's just a slasher battle chip, which we already have anyway, but it's nice to have an extra one of those, I guess. So this is the legendary World 3 area. Yeah, it sure looks that way. Yep, and there's a lot of information stored in the area itself, too. There might be some kind of clue buried here. Right, but be careful, Mega Man. It's a World 3 area, so there are probably tons of traps everywhere. Okay, Lan, understood. I'm ready for your operation. So, gee, with this visual theming, I wonder who the boss could be here. In fact, it's like the theme itself is even a remix of that character's theme from Mega Man 4. So in terms of enemies here in Legendary World 3 Area 1, there's going to be some spooky 2s around that you can get the Invis 2 battle chip from, as well as Invis 1 and Recover 80. There are Kill Flowers, which have Tree Bomb 3, a battle chip I really recommend you max out because not only is it a good wood type chip to have, it's damaged enough to take care of basically any virus in one shot. You can find Ratties and Ratty 3s here, so this is where you want to get Raton 3. But there's also some viruses exclusive to here that we'll talk about in a few moments. In fact, we're actually coming up on one in that little narrow passageway right there. But first, locked mystery data. Hey, another slasher, I'll take it. So this level, platforming-wise, doesn't do a lot new. There's some Yoku blocks, there's some platforms that collapse under them when you step on them, so repair can come in handy around here. It's a lot of the stuff you've seen before. Ah, there's one of the new enemies, Rolling Drill. That's an enemy from Mega Man 5 on the NES. In specific, they can drop the Iron Body battle chip, so hey, not a bad way to get that. So, I've been saving one thought I've had on this game for this level. Network transmission works at points and doesn't at others. And I think a lot of it comes down to the chip folder building feels largely just like a way to do damage rather than actually integral to the platforming, outside a double jump. And honestly, I think a lot of it comes from the fact that the game has a lot of A to B levels that you can play pretty well with the Buster, especially once it's upgraded. But then you got the main internet with den area, global area, and the outer net that works like an interconnected level. And it feels like it just doesn't belong, especially with how much you have to backtrack in areas over there to get either other battle chips or do stuff to the plot. And honestly, it makes me think maybe this game would have worked better as a Metroidvania. And hear me out. In terms of how the battle chips work in this game, it's pretty similar to how the enemy souls work in the two Soma Cruz Igavania Metroidvanias, where you kill enemies, there's just a chance they drop their ability, and then you can use that as a weapon. But then you have things like double jump, which could easily just be set location pickups that you get through the plot to help expand your repertoire for movement. Sliding necessarily didn't need to be that, but you could have double jumps be that, you could have charge shots be that, and then they can destroy extra walls. You could even just use some of the other buttons to give Mega Man outright melee attacks and other things to help him either jump higher, fly like the straight arrow, like the star arrows use and all that. I think there's potential in that idea, and you can even still make it work within the real world locations by, say, making it, okay, land and crew on a vacation at an island, and the town itself is where all your jacking points are that are your warp points on the overall Castlevania map, so to speak. And you can even have them be teleport points because you can jack out at any point in this game to begin with, so that could have worked. By the way, going back to the game itself, up here in this little corner in Legendary World 3 Area 1 is the mole/rush virus. It's whack-a-mole. Hit it 10 times, it drops its battle chip, which in this case is Recover 300, the best recovery chip in the game. I recommend maxing that out after you're done with this level itself. But if you're doing that over and over again, you might run into a purplish-pink variation of that same enemy. We'll talk about them later on. Just, if you see that, I'd recommend not doing that yet. Not because it's harder, just because it's worth doing on its own sort of deal. But if you're gonna grind Recover 300s, I just recommend using this teleport point that we just used to get to Legendary World 3 Area 2, because you could just leave Legendary World 3 Area 1 and then come back in, and the mole virus can and will respawn. Sometimes it might just be the other variant, which again we'll talk about later. Going back to the Metroid idea though, it's not to say I don't think an A to B platformer can't work with Battle Network ideas and mechanics. I just think the platforming and the folder building in this game particularly just feels so separate, barring the occasional use of double jump and dash, that it might as well not be there at all, outside of maybe getting actual Navi chips as special weapons from boss fights, which even then is sort of already how it works here, but closer to just being a Battle Network skin for a classic or X game rather than being this weird mesh that doesn't work half the time. At least it doesn't mesh well, is rather the way I should phrase that, because technically the game does work, nothing really malfunctions in this game. Honestly, it's relatively solid feeling in terms of like collision and all that. It's just that sometimes things feel a little stiff more than accurately. Also, that took me like 2 minutes to do. That jump set there, where you're just doing the last frame jumps to get higher after slides, is rough. The biggest concession I have about this whole Metroidvania idea for the game is it probably would have been harder to sell that to people, especially at the time. Because don't get me wrong, Metroidvanias have a very stable audience, and I love them myself, so I'm part of that. But it was comparatively niche to A to B platformers, especially in the early 2000s. Like, I think at that point, the biggest selling one was probably, if not something like Symphony of the Night, it would have probably been Metroid Prime. Nowadays, because of how indie games developed the genre even further, there's a lot more, probably, credence to them doing any kind of spin-off like that, but by this point, Mega Man, like in our current day, already has its own Metroidvania entries in the 2ZX games that also have their own weird ideas about what that genre feels like, and works at points and doesn't work with it at others. In fact, ZX Advent, as we've covered in that own LP, kind of reduced that element to begin with from the first one. It's just the kind of things that I think about when I'm playing games sometimes, where I'm like, could this work better if the genre was tweaked slightly? And I think in the case of network transmission, at least with how it presents itself, it really could. I guess thinking about the other 2 concessions with that idea as well. For one thing, that probably would have been a much higher budget title than this is, and maybe Capcom just didn't want that at the time and all that jazz. That could have also been a limiter there. And on top of that, this was meant to be more of a tie into the anime, and given the anime probably had a younger target audience than the games even did in some regards, considering the skill ceiling for the main RPGs for this series, maybe a Metroidvania wouldn't have been the best choice, because I can see some kids having a harder time grasping that. I say as someone who played Metroidvanias as a kid, and while I loved them, I was really bad at them. Zero Mission was the one I was probably the most confident at the whole, and that's a pretty easy one by most metrics anyway. We're getting close to the end of the level itself, though, and they do a weird little curve in here at the end, which gets a little awkward. The big thing is, I don't have enough double jumps to reach that last blue mystery data. So guess who jacks out and does the entire level over again? Yay. 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 Along the way, though, remember, I did get a couple more Tree Bomb 3 battle chips, which, hey, I'll take. I'm going to grind up for those between parts as well, because I like having that chip maxed out a lot. With that said, time for our usual pre-boss fight chip selection rounds. For this boss fight, you're going to want things that can hit even high up in the air, potentially, like Tree Bombs are pretty good here. Cannons are just a good, reliable thing, same with Zeta Cannon as usual. This is also one of the healthiest bosses in the game, in that only one other boss has an HP total as high as theirs at 1,000. So bring in anything that's very high damage, really. And as usual, once again, because I use a lot of battle chips when waiting for my chip rounds to lessen the potential ones I can get on reruns, let's get my MP back up. And we're good to go. Let's go fight our very visually predictable boss fight. Who's that? I've never seen that type of Navi before. Who dares disturb my sleep? Who are you? My name is Pharaohman, King of the Navis. This is my sanctuary. Fools, you have despoiled this sanctuary with your unclean presence. Wait, we just need the authorization code. Be cursed now. We can't talk with this guy. Megaman, battle routine, set. Execute. Pharaohman's a little bit of a tough boss, but not because of his main movement pattern or attacks. It's just really one attack that's rough. He floats about the arena doing a very wide arc and figure 8 pattern, but he's so huge you can easily hit him at any point, and you can even interrupt his attacks while doing so. His main attack is spawning in coffins. One of them will have a laser, the other can spawn ratties in that will then do their usual ratty thing. His worst attack is the one that's also his weapon chip, the Anubis, which we'll talk about once we get into the net battle simulator to fight him again. If that shows up, targeted ASAP is all I'll say for now. So, Mega Man, did you find any clues? Yes, the information stored in this area is all visible in this space, but this data is extremely old data created a long time ago. None of this data can be used on modern computers. Darn! I thought there'd be something useful here. Anyway, I'll take this data with us since it looks like some kind of code. It's pretty old, so we can't use it like this, but it might be handy later. Okay, please grab the data. Okay, I saved the data. Well, that's something at least. Alright, let's get out of here. Jacking out. Well, at least we got something for both of those places. Right, so to get to the Undernet, we'll need the authorization code that Shadowman broke. Alright, I'll take a look at the 2 pieces of data you just sent me. Thanks, Dad. This is... Did you find something out? Yeah, I think I can figure this out. Alright, got it. The authorization code is ready. Wow, Dad, you're amazing. We can use this to get into the Undernet. Man, don't stop me, Dad. We're all facing the same danger together. I just want to do my part. I know, Lan. I won't try and stop you from making your choice. But don't forget, you are strong because the two of you work together. That data just now is the same way. I used old data to fix the broken part. And that completed the authorization code. You gotta help each other out that way. And the same principle applies to you and Mega Man too. You've got to cover each other's weak points. When you do that, you can be incredibly, amazingly strong. Dad. Lan, Mega Man, when the two of you work together, you can defeat any enemy. Your dad believes in you. Now, go. Leave it to us, Dad. There's no way we'll lose to that life virus. That's right. Come on, Lan, let's go to the Undernet. And now that we have the authorization code, we can head back towards where we first found Proto Man and then battled him to access the final level in the game. We got some side things to do first off. For one thing, we need to go fight Pharaoh Man in the Net Battle Simulator. But also, this is now the best place in the game to do any Zenny grinding and library completion stuff you might want to do. And there is a lot I have to do. I think we're missing currently about 20-ish battle chips located across a large expanse of the game's levels. So, we're gonna do that. But first, let's go fight Pharaoh Man again. So the main attack he didn't get to use during the battle we just did for story is his weapon chip, which is the Anubis. The way the weapon chip works is you spawn the Anubis, and then it's essentially a screen damager for a short period of time. When Pharaoh Man uses it, the Anubis comes on down, and then will hit you wherever you are on the screen, unless you destroy it first. When you're going for high ranks trying to get Pharaoh Man battle chips, the Anubis is your greatest enemy because you can do nothing to stop its first few attacks, basically, unless you're using, say, the Invis battle chip line, which I think does protect you from its effects. You can also technically stun him in mid-air, like I've been doing here with Proto Man to prevent things from going off, but it's luck of the draw depending on if you get that at all to begin with. Because of the Anubis, getting 5 Pharaoh Man chips actively took me a while, and his battle chip's not too bad. If memory serves, he calls down the coffin and it fires a laser that can actively home in on enemies. I don't think it's that powerful, but I think it can hit multiple times, the big thing. Cyberworld rumor. Lan, have you heard of the secret room that's hidden in Den Area 3? They say there's an unbelievably powerful Navi hiding there. But according to the rumors, the entrance is closed up tight. Only a qualified Navi could get inside. Sounds suspicious. Now that we've S-ranked every single Navi in the game and gotten all their battle chips, we have all but one figurine on Lan's floor. So now a security cube we investigated several parts ago will open to us. We're not gonna do that next part, but we're doing that before we end the game either way. But with that, here's our current library checklist. And with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. And in part 14, we're gonna go throughout the various computers in the game, grabbing whatever battle chips we tend to be missing. See you guys then.